All right. So let's continue. So we've been able to extract the number of characters in the first name and last name combined, and the number of characters in the last name. So which means that I can say, okay, give me the number of characters in the first name and last name combined, right? Minus the number of characters in the last name, okay? Minus 2. Why am I minusing 2? Is because we still have a comma and a space here, and those are 2 characters. So 18 here, right? 12 here and minus 2. Press enter. So 18, 10 and minus 2, and I get 6. If I copy this down, you see that I get the correct number of characters that are after the comma and the space, right? So with this now, I can use this as my input for the right function. So if I come here and I start typing in right, the text I want to get the right from is here, comma, and the number of characters is this. Okay, so all this entire expression here would evaluate the number of characters I'm supposed to get. Okay, and then if I press enter and I copy this down, and Excel has done what it does best, saves you time. Okay, so this is just demonstrates how you can nest different functions together to achieve your results, and that's where the beauty of Excel functions come in. Okay, when you can say, okay, use this function to get this output, and then use that output as an input, okay, for another function to get the result. Now, the difference between we using functions here and the other 2 approaches that we discussed is that if I come here now and I say, okay, right? You see it, the formula filled down, okay, and extracted it as it's supposed to be, and but if it's that we use flash fill, we will need to come here and say, okay, Control E to activate flash fill, and it will still work, right? It will still work. Or for the text to columns, we will need to select everything again, including this last column, and then split it by the Okay. All right, sorry. Let's continue. Okay, so it says that we have to populate the full name of each employee and make sure it is in proper case. And then also you have to fill in the salary each employee is supposed to receive using the salary lookup table. And then finally, HR has provided a subset of the employees and the information she needs about them. Kindly help the HR extract this information. And when you're done with that, add conditional formatting, which is data bars, to the subset so the HR manager can spot easily who is receiving the highest salary. Okay, so first task is we should bring in the full name from the first name and last name, and then the format is first, then last. Now, that is a very, very easy task to do. You can just basically join, the two text string together, and almost everyone that attended the assignments did this correctly. So I just go here equals to, I select my first name, I use the and symbol, I add a space, I put a space in double quotes, use the and symbol again to join the last name, and I press enter. But this is not in the proper case that I want. So which means that I can just wrap this result in the proper function, which we treated last week. So I can wrap this in proper, right? And press enter. Then I have first name and last name together. So I can copy that down and I can come to the home tab and left align it so it looks clean. So this is straightforward out of the box solution, and it works very, very fine. Just want to now show you another function that you can also use to join text strings together. Okay, so I'll just delete this for now. So there is a function called concat. So another way to describe joining two text strings together is to say, okay, we are concatenating, right? We are concatenating. So there's a function called concatenate. Yes, so concatenate. And the concatenate function basically does what? You give the concatenate function a couple of text strings and it joins it together. That's all it does. Takes text one, text two, text three, text four, joins everything together. So I could also use the concatenate function and say, okay, this is the first text I want to join together. Press a comma. The second text in this case would be the space that I want to add. So I put in double quotes space, add a comma, and the last text is going to be Jackson. Close the bracket and I press enter. And you see, it gives us exactly what we did using the and symbol. Then I can just, wrap this in a proper function, right? Close the bracket at the end, press enter, and it works as well. So you can use the concatenate function. In the newer versions of Excel, we have concat, we have text join that basically do the same thing, but in a slight variation. But most times, right, I find myself that I use that and symbol because it's quite easy and it's quite straightforward. So I just say, okay, I want to find everything in proper case. I want to use this, join it with the space, and join it with the last name, and it works fine. Okay, so that works, right? That works. Then the second task is to determine the salary that each employee is going to receive. So we have a salary lookup table here, right? We have a salary lookup table here, and we have the grades. You look up the grades and return the salary for that grade. So I want to use a named range, right? This is one of the topics that we also covered in the tutorials this week. So I want to introduce what we call named ranges. Okay, so you see how we can use that as well to solve a task like this. Now, a named range is basically saying, okay, you have a range of cells that maybe you're going to be referring to them over and over again in a formula, right, or in a calculation. But you don't want to always have to say equals to and go and look for, oh, where did I even put this value that I want to refer to? What you can do is that you can name, right, that cell, or you can name those range of cells so that anytime you just type in that name, it will refer to those range of cells. Now, by default, every cell in Excel has a name. So if I click on this department here now, the name of this cell is what? Cell U3. If you look at the name box up here at the upper left corner, see the name of the cell is cell U3. If I click on this cell, the name of the cell is cell S3. If I click on this cell, the name of the cell is what? Cell Z3. But I can change the name of a particular cell by just, okay, selecting the cells and then coming here and I name it, right? So in this case now, because I know that to find this set of values, to find this same salary for each grade, I'm going to be referring to this salary lookup table. So I can come here and say, okay, let me even name this range, and I can select this entire salary lookup table. Okay, I'll come to my name box here, and I'll name it salary underscore lookup. Okay. Now, when you are giving a name to cells, right? You cannot put in a space. So it's either you put in an underscore, or maybe you just join everything together, right? You can't put in a space. So I call it salary underscore lookup, and I press enter. Okay. And you see that if you go to your name box now, you click on this drop down arrow, and I select salary lookup. See that it just highlights that range because I've now named this range from Z4 to AA21. I've named it salary lookup. So I want to now get my salary now. I can just come here and say, okay, I'm going to be using the Vlookup function, right? So I say equals to Vlookup. My lookup value is going to be my grade, comma. Where is the table array? I don't need to go and select that table array. I've already named it. So I just start typing salary and see Excel brings it up and I press tab to select it, comma. What's the column index? The table only has two columns, the grade and the salary. So I'm returning the second column. I press 2, comma. Am I doing an approximate match or an exact match? In this case, I'm doing an exact match. Select exact match, tab, close brackets, enter, and then I have the salary. Now, the beauty about named ranges, right, is that by default, okay, they are absolute. So if I copy this formula down, right, and I go to any of the cell and I check it, this salary lookup that I've converted to a named range would always refer to that cell. If I scroll over to the side now, you will see that it's highlighted in red, giving that it is always referring to that cell. So by default, when you have a named range, the named range does not move as you copy your formulas, whether down or across. It will always keep referring to that particular named, those particular cell range that you have defined with that name. So I can make this look better. I can select everything, Control Shift down, maybe add a comma separated by commas, and remove the decimal places so it looks nice. I always say it's try to what's it called now? Try to make your work presentable. Okay, so that's that. And then the last task for this assignment is that we want to extract certain names. Okay, I want to extract certain information for a given employee. So they've given us a set of employees, 0010, like that, and then we need to extract their full name. So this is like our database, right? This is like our database. So obviously now we know that we're going to be using the lookup function, right? We're going to be using the lookup function. And so I need to be able to say, okay, search for this value in this table. But I have one problem now, and the problem is that what? In my database, the way my employee IDs are stated is what? EMP001 or EMP and the ID. But in this case, I have it as just what? The numbers, right? So which means that first things first is that I will have to find a way to add EMP to whatever it is I have here, right? I need to find a way to do that. So once I can do that, I can easily just use my Vlookup function to say, okay, look up this value in this table, that is search for the employee ID, and then return this column. So let's see how we can do that faster. One way might be to say, okay, I can say, let me create something like equals to, and I put in quotes EMP, right? I close it and I join it with what I have here and press enter, right? So that's, I think it gives me what I need now, and I copy it down and I have everything I need. But I don't need it to be here. I need it to be here. So I can just select all of this, right? Control C to copy and go here. Now, there are different ways, like everybody knows now, Control C, Control V, it's like the PS trick in Excel. I've never in copy and paste. Right? Copy and paste. So I want to copy and paste different ways you can copy and paste. Let's Control V here. Sequence. I get EMP plus EMP. And why is that? I copy values that I create, right? Copy that I have the and put in Control Z. Select it again and copy. And then when I come here, I'll right click and then you see paste special, right? You see paste special. So when you click, if I click on paste special, I now have different options by which I can paste. I can paste all, I can paste only the formulas, I can paste only the values, I can paste only the formatting, like I can specify how or what I want to paste from what I've copied. So in this case, I only just need the values that were generated. So I select values here and I press OK. I see that was give me the content of my formula. So that means I can delete this now, the one I created, and I can work with this. Okay, so that's just one trick. There are different ways you can copy and paste. When you copy, you just press Ctrl C, Ctrl V. You can specify how what you copy gets copied. Whether you want to copy only the number, you want to copy only the formula, you want to copy only the values, you want to copy only the formatting. You can specify how it will be. So there's now information for the extract. Now we have a set of employees. Since we'll be referring to this table, and I don't want us to always come here and say Ctrl Shift down, select this and that, we can name the range, right? We can name the range. So I can come here, select everything like this. Since I'm not working with the entire table, okay, select everything, and then come to the name here, and let's call it EMP, stands for employee underscore data. You can call it anything you want. I just call it EMP data. It's employee data. And I press enter. So this range now is now called employee data. So now it makes it easier for me to write my formulas. So I can say equals to Vlookup. My lookup value is this, comma. My table array is now called what? EMP data. I see that as highlighted the range I selected, comma. The full name now, and I need to find, okay, which column is the full name. So the full name is in what? 1, 2, 3, 4 is in the fourth column. So I press enter 4, comma. Am I doing an exact match or an approximate match? I'm doing an exact match. So I can put in 0 or type false. I put in 0 to make the formula short, and I press enter, and it returns the full name. So I can also do that for the salary. Same thing. VLOOKUP. The lookup value is my employee ID, which is in R4, comma, my lookup range, EMP data, comma, my column index is what? In this case, is salary. So salary is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's the eighth column. Press 8, comma, 0 for exact match, close the bracket and press enter. And it returns the salary for that name. So the same thing for the department, say equals to VLOOKUP, select the value, comma, EMP data, comma, the department is the sixth column, comma, and I'm doing an exact match, press my enter and I get branding as a department. And then the hire date, the same thing, VLOOKUP, select my employee ID, give it my table array, which is my employee data, press the comma, return the fifth column, which is the fifth column, which is the hire date, and press enter. Remember, we got a number now instead of a date, and the only difference is just what is formatting. Remember, I said it's in the first class that what dates are the same thing as numbers. We just determine how they look. So I can select this, come over to the home tab under the number group and change this to short dates, and I have my dates. So once I filled in everything for the first person, I can just highlight everything for that row and double click, and it gives me the necessary information for each of those employees. And you are good to go. Assignment solved. Now I want to demonstrate and not more or less like a technique, right, to make this a little bit. Let me duplicate the, so duplicated worksheet now. I'll just delete this. Oh, then it's going to can't hear me at any point in time, you can just unmute and speak or send a message in the chat so I'll know. Okay. Okay, so we've seen how let me just sorry. It's going to have some conflicts. Okay. So let me just, instead of creating a new worksheet, let me just copy this and just put it under here. Okay, let's put it back here. Right. So I want to show a different method, and the trick to this method is this. You know, for this formula now, the only thing that we had to do repeatedly was that we had to type VLOOKUP. And why did we have to type VLOOKUP multiple times? Is because we had to specify a different column index, right? Every time we need to type the function. That was why we had to retype VLOOKUP every time. So what if we can say, okay, can we just maybe dynamically provide the column index number so that VLOOKUP knows where to look for, or we just say, okay, go to this particular place and to get the column index number to return, and then it just works as it should. So let me delete all of this here now, okay? And I say, okay, I know that my full name is in column 4. Above full name here, I'll just type in 4. I know my salary is in column 8. My department is in column 6, and my hire date is in column 5. Okay, so I can still now use my VLOOKUP function now, but when it's now time for the column index, I can just basically refer to these cells here. Okay, so let's try that out and see. Equals to VLOOKUP. My lookup value is here, comma, my table array, still the same thing, EMP data, comma, my column index now is what is here. but I need to, you know that I need to lock it so that when I copy this formula down, it doesn't, shift. So I can press F4 to make the reference absolute, comma, and I'm using an exact match, which is 0. And I close the bracket and I press enter. And if I copy this down, it works, right? Let's see if I copy it across whether it will work. No, I get errors. Why is that? Let's look at the first one. So you see that what happened. Number one, the reference moved from this column to this column. That is one. Number two, this reference to this part, this top column did not change. So which means that we need to make sure that as we copy it across, it doesn't leave here. And as we copy it down and across, it moves down here, but does not move to the next cell. And as we copy it across, it moves to the next cell, but does not move down, so that the references remain correct. Now, so far, all of us students that have started with us, you know that all we just need to do is what? Do some mixed referencing. So if I edit the formula now, I know that for the lookup value now, all I need to do is what? Lock a column and leave the row free so that when I copy down, it moves to the next row. But when I copy it across, it keeps remaining on this column. So I press F4. This one locks everything, makes it absolute. I press F4 the second time. This one what? Locks only the column, but leaves the row relative. But that's not what we want. We want the row to be relative, but the column to be fixed. So I'll press F4 until the $ is in front of the column rather than the row. And then for the column index, which we refer to as a cell, this time around, I want to remain on this particular row, but be able to move from column to column as I copy the formula across. So I'll press F4 till I have the $ only in front of the column. So when I press enter now and I copy this down, it gives me the right name. Let's see if I fill it across, it works, and it works, right? What I just need to do is what? Change the formatting here to date. Let's remember the shortcut. Now, let me just do it with it. So I can come here and set the formatting to date. Okay. And if we edit the formula, you see that what we have the right referencing to both the employee and the column date. And then maybe you have this, maybe you're supposed to prepare this as a solution. You can just come here so your boss will know what you did. You can come here and make the text color white, for example. And then it will just blend with the background as if nothing is there. But God will help you, and then someone will come and delete it. Everything will just everything will just break. So that is one way to make the Vlookup function faster when you have like multiple columns to return from the same table. Okay. Let's move over to the last task. And this task is quite simple as well. It says what? Copy data provided in assignment 2 over to this worksheet in cell H2. So let's go to assignment 2. And assignment 2 was our student score sheet. So I'll come here, copy everything. Now to select it, go to the first cell, Control Shift, right arrow, Control down, or just come here and press Control A, and it selects everything. Okay. So maybe I should delete the last one that I created with my name. So right click, select then right click and delete. Okay. So I can come here and select everything, Control A, right? And then Control C to copy. Now come over to assignment 4 worksheet, click on cell H2 and press Control V. Now watch what happens, and you see why you have to determine how you want to paste the values. If I just paste this, what I have is what? A bunch of errors, right? A bunch of errors. But anytime you do this, no need to panic. You can just Ctrl Z to undo, right click, paste special. Or if you paste for the first time, Ctrl C, Ctrl V on a new worksheet, you would see a little like box here at the bottom of your of the area where you pasted on. that will have is control. So when you click on that, it brings up all the different paste options that you have. So if you just hover on each of them, I see that this one is just normal paste. This one is paste formulas. This one is paste formulas and number formatting. This one is to keep the source column with and all of that, right? So in this case now, I would want it to give me the values. Okay, I don't want the formulas that it's used to derive the remarks and the grade. I want it to give me only the values. Okay? And maybe I probably wanted to also keep the formatting. So I say under this paste values section here, I have for the first one is just what values. It's going to paste only as values. Second one is values and number formatting. And the last one is value and source formatting. So any formatting that has been applied to the source is going to keep it. So let's try it. If I keep only values, see it's just like a normal paste, right? If I change it to values and number formatting, in this case, I don't have number formatting applied to anything. So it still gives me the same thing. And if I put it as keep values and source formatting, it is formatting that has been applied to it from the worksheets where it's coming from. You see that it gives me the numbers, but it keeps all of those formatting. Well, in this case, I think I'm okay with just values, right? And so I can do the formatting the way I want. Okay. So I can now say, all right, let me make all of this perfectly aligned. I select all of these columns that contain data, and at the divider between each column, I just double click, and then it auto fits, it auto fits the contents of each column to make it visible. So we've done the first part that says copy data in assignment 2 over to cell H2. And then now we have to convert it to an Excel table. So far, this is just what a range, right? So we're just working in normal sales worksheets, but now we want to convert it to a range. Sorry, we want to convert it to an Excel table. Okay, so I would select everything by just pressing Control A, right? Now scroll back up, and then I would come over to Home. I can come over to Home and choose Format as Table, or I come over to Insert. Yes, yeah, and I select Table here. So there are two places you can do it: Home, Format as Table, Insert, Select Table. But you see, as I hover over this table, I have a shortcut that says what Control T. So most times I use Control T. So I just press Control T, and it's easy to remember T for table. So Control T, and that attempts to convert it to a table. So it asks me, okay, where is the data for a table? Because I've selected it in advance before pressing Control T, it guesses correctly. And then it asks me, okay, does my table have headers? So that is the first row in the selection that you have provided, are they the table headers? In this case, yes. So I check that box and I click OK. So I have contents of, I have the entire range I've selected converted into a table. And then I can say, okay, maybe I don't like the way this thing is formatted. I can come over to a table design group. At the left right here where you have table styles, I can change the style of the table to however I want. Maybe I want it light gray, maybe I want this, any style that like you can choose it. So let's just say I go with this. Okay. And when you are working with Excel tables, you have quite a number of options that you can work with. And all of those options, you can find them here in the table design group. So as a good practice, okay, as a good practice, anytime you are working with Excel tables, you take a range of data, you convert it to a table, it is always good to rename the table. So by default, Excel will just say, okay, you brought in a table, and then to just name the table, maybe table 1, table 2, table 5, depending on the number of tables that you have created. But it's always good to rename it so that when you want to refer to the content of that table, it's easy. Okay, so I'll come to table design. While I'm selected in my table, I'll come to table design, and then at the edge, I see properties, and I can select the table name. So I'll delete what we have there and then name it, let's say, student underscore grades, for example. So let's call it student underscore grades. So the name of this table now is now called student underscore grades. So now let's just cover some other things. So within this table design ribbon, in the table design tab, we have a range of tools that you can use to work with the data there. You can summarize with the pivot table, which we're going to do shortly. We can remove duplicates. So let's say you have rows where it is exactly the same thing that has been repeated, or you want to select a particular column and remove the duplicates in that column. You can do that just by selecting either the entire table or a single column and then click on remove duplicates, and it will remove the duplicates. We can also insert a slicer. Now a slicer is like a filter. So let's just look at that as an example. So I can click on insert slicer, and then it tells me, okay, what column in my table do I want to use as the slicer, right? So let's say I want to use the grade, so that I want to be able to see why the people that scored what particular grade. So to insert this slicer here, so this slicer is like a filter that is connected to this table. So if I click on a grade now, let's say C, see that my table gets what's filtered down to only those people that the grade is C. If I click on B, it gets filtered down to B. If I click on A, click on C+, if I click on F, if I click on D, you see that. And then if I just click on the edge here, I can clear the filter and have this. So you can have multiple filters and multiple slicers based on different columns in your table. And for a slicer, if you select the slicer, you see that you also have a new tab and with its own range of options to format it and make it better. So let's go back to the table. So just select the table, go over to table design. Then we've looked at properties, tools. Let's look at table style options. So within the table style options, it's like an addition to the table styles. So it's like an addition to the table styles where you can change how it looks and add some features to it. So the header row now, if I uncheck the header row, you see that it just basically takes out my header row, right? Just basically takes out. So probably you won't want to do that in practice, so you probably keep that on. Then we have first bounded rows. So this bounded rows is what is giving these rows different styles. I have one is gray, one is white, one is green, one is white. If I don't want that, I can click on bounded rows and it takes that off, right? And I put that, I can click on that to turn it back on. Let's say I don't want bounded rows, I want bounded columns. I can uncheck bounded rows, select bounded columns, and it basically does what it did for the rows, but in the reverse. So I prefer, let's say, bounded columns. So I can decide, okay, do I want to apply a separate formatting to the first column, or do I want to apply a separate formatting to the last column? So those ones are useful when maybe your data is like a report, right? And then it's like, let's say, cross-tabulated report where you have, okay, for this one, we have looking at different values. We have like departments, and then they're looking at score, the teacher, all those things. So just basically change how it looks. And then you also have an option whether you want to enable these filter buttons that you have at the top here or not. So you can select the filter button, and that toggles it. But I prefer to have filter buttons on. I prefer bounded rows because without any formatting for the last column. So that is part of the format. And then the last thing that is probably very useful when you're working with Excel tables is you can add a total row without writing any formula. So once I've converted my data to an Excel table and I select total row, okay, I can add a total basically to the row. Now, depending on the kind of data you have in each column, will determine the kind of calculation that you can do in a row. So let's say for this scores column now, see once I'm in this total row that has been created and I click on any cell in that total row, I have this little drop down here. And with that drop down, I can select a range of options to do a total. So maybe I want to do the average of the mark, does that automatically. Maybe I want to do the count, does that. Maybe I want to do the marks. So I know that's 98, mean, I know that's 21. Onto the standard deviation, it does that, onto the variance. And if I want to do more functions, I can specify, okay, what I want to calculate in the total row, and then it does that. So in this case, maybe it would be nice to know the average. Okay, that the average is 61.67. So that is also fine. Okay, so that's the total row. Depending on the kind of data you have, you determine the kind of aggregations that you can do there. So for example, if you're working with text now, it doesn't make sense to do the max of text. There's no maximum value you can calculate for text values. But for these ones, you can probably do a count, right? So the last thing I will just look at before we create the pivot table as required for the assignment is how referencing works in Excel tables. Okay, so far we've only been working with normal ranges. Okay, where we want to refer to a cell, we say okay equals to cell D5, or we say okay equals to cell A1 to A20, for example. And then I've also showed you an example of what's it called now? Named ranges. Okay, so named ranges where say, okay, I want to name a particular cell or a particular range of cells this name so that I can easily refer to it anywhere in my workbook. Okay, so but when you're now working with tables, tables have their own referencing style. Okay, and we call it structured referencing. All right, so let's just say we want to add a new column to this table. And we always want to call it, let's say, let me think of something. Let's call it above average, for example, above average. And the criteria for this above average doesn't be that, okay, if the score is greater than 50, okay, put great. If it's not greater than 50, put improve, okay. So we'll use standard if statement now. So equals to if, okay. Now look at what happens when I select the score table. Look at the reference that we have here. We have what? A square brackets, we have art, and we have scores. Okay, so this is how referencing in tables work, right? We are no longer referring to cell L3 in this case. We are referring to what? The current row in the scores column. Okay, so you don't even need to bother about it. Once you just click on it, Excel will write the proper reference. So I'm saying, okay, if the scores is greater than 50, then return, where did I say nothing? Okay, say return great. Otherwise, return improve. Okay, so you know you need to put in double quotes because I did it with text. Close the brackets, press enter, and that is another beauty of Excel tables. Once you type in the formula once, it gets applied to every single row in that table. Okay, so when you're working with Excel tables, you don't need to bother about copying the formula down, right? You just once you just type it the first time, it applies it to every row in that table. Okay, so that is an interesting thing about working with Excel tables. You have a lot of features to change the look. You have the total row and all of that, and then the formulas just work automatically. And the beauty about this is that if I add a new row to this table, let me show you that. So let's say I select my table and I turn off the total row so that I can add a new row. Right. And I say, okay, let me use my name, for example. Let's say, okay, now the formula has gone out of this one, so that's why we are having type it. Just an example. You see that what I actually want to show you is this class row here. It's copied down without me having to copy it down, right? The formula has copied down. So that's what I was going to show you. Formula update automatically. You add new rows. If you have any formula, you just fields down correctly. Okay, so that's built about working with Excel tables. The last thing of that is what we have to create a pivot table showing the number of students that received each grade. Okay, so we can just select this table, select anywhere in the table, go over to the Insert tab and click on Pivot Tables. So we're inserting the pivot tables from table or range and see what happens. In the table or range selection, instead of saying, okay, equals to cell this to cell that, it takes the name of the table. And that's why it is always good sometimes when you're trying to create pivot tables, try and convert your data to an Excel table so that number one, it's easy to refer to it, and number two, if you add new rows to the Excel table, they automatically get added to the pivot table, and all you just have to do is just what, refresh. Okay, so we're going to be adding this to a new worksheet and say okay. So it has created a new worksheet for our pivot table, and we just want to see, let's see the question again. Just want to see, okay, number of students that received each grade. So let me bring this here. Let's name it pivot tables. Then what's the number of students that received each grade? So I'll drag the grade to the rows, and I will drag, let's say, can use anything now, and drag maybe the first name to the values. And because it's text, is that what it defaults to a count. So I know that, okay, for grade A, we have 2 people. For B, we have 3. For B plus, we have 2. For C, we have 5. C plus, and all of that. So we've covered Excel tables last week. So you can do a range of things with Excel, with pivot tables. I mean, sorry, not Excel tables. So you can do a range of things with pivot tables. You can add more fields, can change the form of calculation you want to do. Maybe you want to do a percentage of total. I just right click and I say show values as percentage of grand total, and then automatically I know that, okay, B plus is 6.45% of everything, F is 29.0%, and all of that. All right, so that is assignment 4. Now I just remembered, I think I skipped the part where we were supposed to do the conditional formatting, right, in assignment 3. This is when you're done with that, add conditional formatting of data bars to the subset of the HR providers, and so I can easily spot easily who is receiving the highest salary. So we will just go over to the extract that we have there. Then I will select all of the salary where I want to apply conditional formatting, and go to the home tab and I click on conditional formatting. So we have a range of options you can use for conditional formatting. Let's say in this case, I just want data bars. I just select data bars and I can choose how I want to fill. Let's say I want just a solid fill, this. So you see that it's basically just like a chart that's showing me where the highest values are and where the lowest values are. So I already automatically said, okay, this is higher value, is high, this is also high, this is also high, right? Compared to what we have in the entire set. So I don't want that, can undo, and I can choose a different one. Maybe I want a color scale to range from the highest to the lowest. So let's say I want highest one should be green, lowest one should be red, and those in the middle should be white. I'll select this, and it works. Control Z. Let's try something else. Color scales. Let's say we just want it to range from, say, green to yellow. Just as easy as that to apply conditional formatting. And maybe you want it to be based on the criteria. I can say, okay, highlight values that are greater than or less than something, or that are between this and this, or text that contains, it's just, you're just going to click, right? You're just going to click. So let's say I want to highlight values that are greater than, let's say, values that are greater than 500,000, for example. And they can call me and change and say, I want it to be green fill with dark green text. And I say, okay. And I have the values that are greater than 500,000. If one value should change to 500,000 or something higher, it just automatically updates. So conditional formatting, very, very easy. Just select where you want to apply conditional formatting and apply it. The only thing that I will just add to this now is, okay, let's say you've applied conditional formatting to a set of cells or a range of cells, and you want to delete it. You select where the conditional formatting has been applied, go to conditional formatting, go to clear rules. You can say clear rules from selected cells, and then conditional formatting that applied to this cell range will automatically be removed. We are back to where we were before. So that's just it about conditional formatting. So we've looked at VLOOKUP, we've looked at some more text functions, we've looked at text to columns picture, we've looked at flash fill, we've looked at pivot tables again, we've looked at Excel tables, the functionalities of Excel tables, right? And then as part of the tutorials I was supposed to watch, we also covered some data analysis features like sorting, filtering, and all of those things. Okay, so I think I've covered majorly what I wanted to, the assignment and some other things I wanted to discuss this morning. So I would leave you, I'll give you the chance now to ask your questions. The concepts I was talking about that are not exactly clear, right? You can ask your questions now. Time we have been too fast for some things, or I may have covered, or may have skipped some parts that you actually wanted me to touch, right? So you can ask your questions now. I know the assignment was a little bit beyond the scope of the we asked you to write. I said, that there are a lot of things to do. So I will take questions now. Any questions? If me, my do you have any questions? Maybe the tasks that we just demonstrated here, you know a different way of doing it, you can comment.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I'm talking about assignment 3. So where you did the employee ID,
Okay.
like, can you go through it again?
Okay.
Actually, like,
right.
for the assignment, it was kind of confusing, so I made use of what's this thing? I made use of data validation. So like I want to go
Oh yes, I saw that, which was very smart. Okay.
yes, I want to go through it again. Like,
Okay.
I didn't get that part.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Let me reconstruct the situation that we had. Okay. Let me reconstruct the situation that I had. Okay, let me see if I can reconstruct the. Sorry. Hold on, please. No. Okay. All right. So this was the case. This was how the assignment was, right? And just basically had, instead of, we had a list of employee IDs. I wanted to extract certain information from them. Okay. But in our database, the way the employee ID is stored is different. So instead of just the 4-number string or the 4-character number, we have. Okay, so what I said was, instead of having to go through each one of them and start typing EMP plus EMP 0010, I can just join the text EMP to the numbers and say equals to, right, EMP in double quotes. I join that with this. Okay, then I press. So now I have the code that I need, right? So I want to now copy this code and put it here. I mean, I have the right employee ID. So I want to copy it and put it here. So if I select this, Control C, come over here and say Control V. It doesn't work. Why? It has copied the formula. So if I edit this, see what happens. It has copied the formula that I created. So I don't want to copy the formula. I just only want to copy the values that were generated, right? So I'll Control Z now to undo. Select everything and say Control C. Come here and I'll see what I'll just paste special and paste only the values that have been generated. So if I right click, paste special, select only values and click OK. And I have the employee ID with the text EMP in front of it. And so I can delete the other formula I created because it's no longer useful now. I just needed it to create this. Is that fine? There are many ways we could have gone about that, right? There are many ways you could have gone. We could have also used flash fill. So if I undo now, let's say undo, okay, and I say, okay, I want to use flash fill here, and I say EMP 0010, enter, and I activate flash fill with Control E. See what it works, right? I get the text I need. It also went to hard, it's point one up. I don't need that one. I can just Control C, come here, Control V. And because flash fill is not driven by a formula, it works. I don't need to say base special and base values. And I can delete this and I write my formula and everything works. Right. So does that explain it better? All right. All right. Okay. So we have any other question? I think a couple of people have also left the call. And I have new people joining our group, right? So that is interesting. Okay, so let's see. So Barkis, any question? Can I ask a question? So I have one of the facilitators that we have been working on the program together, right? Olumide Ishola is on the call. So myself, Ishola, Biodun, and Martins, we are the ones that have been trying to put together the materials, amend the tutorials, the assignments, review, and all of that. So Ishola, will you just say one or two things to just address? Yeah, over 60 have joined the Telegram group now, I know. Okay.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's breaking a little bit. Okay, I'm not sure we can hear you anymore. I'm not sure we can hear you anymore. Okay, well, you could maybe when the network is better, or you will just address us on the group later so we know those that are facilitating the program. So this is the third week, right? And we've tried to cover a range of functions and features of Excel. We are hoping to round up the training next week. Okay. The goal of the training was to teach you basics, right? Basics, fundamentals, the concepts that are foundational for you to expand your skill sets and learn more things about Excel, right? So we have covered in the last 3 weeks, we have covered quite a number of functions, features, capabilities of Excel. We've barely scratched the surface, right? We hope that the little that we've been able to cover so far would motivate you, would inspire
Oh,
you
can
to
you hear
want
me?
to
PJ, can you
learn.
hear me now?
Okay, yes, Shola, we can hear you.
So, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. And
Good
first of
afternoon.
all, Mr. Bolaji, I've been the main point since the one of this training. And well, it's just surprising that you really have 8% on this call when I joined the advanced position.
Yeah.
So now that there are more people who join us on the Telegram, I don't know, because we have a number that is just that Mr. BJ had to be the main cause for now. But there are people who are working, they are doing that thing on the ground. So
Yeah.
thank you for trusting on Sharp. Let me use that trusting. And Mr. Isabella I said most of the goals actually.
Okay. I'm not sure we can hear you again, but thank you.
Which code are you using?
Thank you. Right. Um, so the four of us have been working together to make this possible. Even if you've not seen them much, we've all been working on it together. Okay. So we've run the train now for 3 weeks, covered a little bits of stuff, and we will be concluding it next week. Right. So the next week is actually a more or less like a bonus session, right? The major outline that we designed for the training, we've covered it, right? At least the major one we want to cover it. Next week is going to be about data visualization, how to create charts in Excel, what are the kind of charts you should use when you have certain kind of data, and how do you format the different elements in a chart, how do you make your charts look good, right? So that is majorly the focus of next week's class. And then after the class, we would round off the program. Okay, round off the program. So it's still going to be on Saturday by 11. So that will be for Saturday. That will be for next week. Then for this week's exercise, it would be the case study. Okay, the case study that we said, the final case study that is going to be, let me warn you now in advance, it's going to be complex. Okay, it's going to be complex. So, but it's going to build on everything that we've discussed and slightly some of those things that we've not discussed, so that you go and look for a solution to the problem and solve it. Okay, so we'll discuss some of those things. Some of those things I've discussed will be part of the case study. So the case study will be made available on Tuesday instead of Thursday as we usually do. So maybe available on Tuesday, so you have more time to walk through it. You're not going to have cases like, okay, use this formula to do this, right? We're not going to have cases like that. We'll just give you a task, a requirement, and then you solve using the Excel knowledge that you have learned so far. So that will be case study. And then for in the final session that we have on Saturday, after we walk through the data visualization class, we will not be doing a live review of a case study. We will just provide a solution file, right, to the solution that. But in the class on Saturday, we'll just make mention of a few things that you should do if you're trying to attend the case study. It's not going to be detailed, right? We just provide a solution file. And we would conclude the training next week. So anticipate the data visualization class, because it is very, very useful, especially for we that are studying economics, right? We would always be creating charts when we want to show the trend of GDP, we want to show which country has the most population, all those kind of stuff. We would cover as much as possible, looking at different chart types that are supported in Excel, line charts, bar charts, column charts, pie charts, histograms, all of those things, and then how to format it so that when you are creating your charts, someone doesn't just see your chart and know that this guy did it in Excel, right? Your charts will teach you how to make your charts, beautiful, basically make them more presentable and clean, right? So that anytime someone sees the chart you've created, know that I'm not sure this person did it to Excel or not, because it'll be very, very elegant. Okay, so that is all that we want to discuss this morning, right? I don't know if Dr. Shitu has one or two words for us. Okay, Shala, your network is very bad. Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Thank you, BJ.
Yes, sir.
All right. All I just want to do is to encourage every one of us not to be tired. Okay. Data analysis, data visualization, data analytics. These are all jobs of the future, really. Okay. I could recall when I had my job then, when I was going to move into the project office at Glow Mobile. What actually gave me the slot eventually was my little understanding of Excel. Then we had 3 people, and they needed just only one. 3 of us made it to the final, and they needed just only one. So they had to now start testing us on the knowledge of all of these tools, both Microsoft Word, Excel. So it was there I had a few points ahead of my competitors. So, but today it's gone beyond that. Just you having basic understanding. We want to see you use it. We want to see you demonstrate it. We want to see you apply it. Is that okay? So please, I will reiterate. ASU is on strike, but learning will never go on strike. So it may be painful, though, cost of data, we have to log on. You can see I'm on the road today, but I'm still following up because that is my only little way of encouraging all of you. So please and please, just as Bolaji said, we're going to round off next week, but the more you practice, the better you become. So let's make practice a habit, and let's continue to sharpen our horns. Let's continue to hone our skills and become more professional in the use of this Excel. May God bless all of us. Thank you, guys.
Amen. Thank you very much, sir. And I think I just have one last thing to talk about. Okay, so I shared, I think it was earlier this week or last week, I shared a link to a tweet that a group of guys are starting. They want to organize a 30-day training on, Microsoft apps, the data, Azure, the Microsoft Power Platform. Okay, and they are really targeting it at students, that have been affected by the ASU strike. So I hope every one of us have, registered for that. The registration closed yesterday, and they are going to kickstart the training, I believe, in 1st of April, right? So they're going to be covering a lot of stuff. There have already been instructions on how to set up, the developer account for your learning so you don't miss out on anything. So I hope every one of us have registered on that. Really, really, I want you to take advantage of it. The skills that you're going to learn from that initiative alone is powerful. In case you don't know the guys that are organizing it, those guys are some of them, or like the ones at the forefront, are Microsoft MVPs, and MVPs are the most valuable professionals. And the Microsoft MVP award is not just given to anyone; it's given to those people that have demonstrated, expert understanding of those tools and have given back to the community in numerous ways. So these people are about giving back to the community, and they are also experts in the use of this tool. So make sure I hope you've registered, right? And make sure to follow through the 30 days. It's going to be all through April. So make sure to follow through to the end. Okay. So I'm going to put my number in the chat. You can reach out to me on WhatsApp if you have if you have any question you want to ask me, you can just reach out to me on WhatsApp. I think that was a direct link to my WhatsApp line. Okay, I guess that will be all. We have new people joining the Telegram group. I will address that probably by the end of today. So do have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye. Okay, yeah. And also thank you for joining today's class. Yeah. Okay.
All right, Bolaji.
Okay, sir.
All right, so Bolaji, I can
You
end
can
the
end the
Zoom, right?
meeting. Yes, sir.
All right, then. Enjoy
Okay,
the
sir.
rest of the day.
You too, sir.